Okay, so I'm good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna recap that real quick. So I'm from Ohio. I know Paul because we studied law together. I study biology. I'm a senior. I'm a Swiftie, very involved on campus. Very brief rundown of who I am. Um, okay, so I'm just gonna walk you guys through kind of my journey. I do consider myself a marine biologist. Um, so even though I don't have a marine biology major and I am landlocked in the cornfields of Ohio, I have found my way through marine science. And so that is what I'm going to be talking about today. So there's my little timeline and we'll go through all those things. So to start us off, I worked at a coral farm that is in Ohio in the middle of the cornfields. That picture at the top is me on my very first day. I started after my first semester, my freshman year of college. Um, I wanted to work at an aquarium, so I Googled aquariums, and this one came up because it's an aquarium store. So like people keep like corals and saltwater tanks, and so we would grow and sell the coral and the fish for those tanks at this store. So at first, what I did was I emailed the company and I said, "Hey, in college and I'm looking for a job or something. Like, is there any opportunity you guys have?" And the owner called me that night and was like, "Yeah, you can come volunteer this week tomorrow." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I started volunteering there, and I guess they liked me because I became an employee. So I volunteered over my J term, which is in January. And then when I came back home for the summer, they hired me on as a regular team member. And this was my first sense of marine biology, of touching coral, of seeing fish. And it was a good way for me to get my understanding of how an aquarium works, how a tank works, how to take care of water, how to take care of organisms, things like that. It was also my first job. So very exciting first job. So after I did that, the coral farm, I went back to school and I helped to found our marine biology club. And so this is also my freshman year. I had always been interested in marine biology, but didn't know that's what I wanted to do. So I had spent my winter volunteering at the coral farm. I wanted to pursue that. So I found some people who also were interested in marine bio, and we started the club. And I think the most important thing that the club has done for me, which I'm now the president of my club, the thing that it did for me most was networking. And so what we did was we just started cold emailing people. So we started with big names, like you probably heard of Four Ocean. We did the Coral Restoration Foundation. We talked to the Marine Mammal Care Center in LA. And so they came and gave us Zoom presentations like this one that I'm giving you. And it was just a good way for us to get to know other sides of marine science that we obviously can't see in Ohio. But since then, we've reached out to so many other people, and it's been a really cool way to connect with people and get them talking to you face to face. Great way to break the ice, club. So yeah. Also being in the club inspired me to follow through with scuba diving, and I started my certification. I started paying towards my certification, which I'll talk about more in a sec. So after I found the club, I spent so long trying to find an internship. And I finally landed one. It was unpaid in Florida, and it was a Moat Marine Lab, and I did manatee research. So I moved to Florida. They didn't pay me. They didn't cover housing. And so I needed to figure out how to pay for it. So I went to my career center at my school. And I was like, "Hey, I am getting this unpaid internship. Help." And they were like, "Yeah, we have scholarships to help you." So I applied for scholarships and I got, I think, $2,000 or $3,000 to help me live there, which was definitely necessary. And I also got a need-based stipend from Mo, and it was $600. So nothing significant, but it's better than nothing. So while I was at Moat, like I said, did manatee research.
Aquarium?
What?
Wait, you mean like as a moat aquarium?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I've been there. I went there like on January.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So yes, I worked at Moat.
It's really
Um,
nice there.
yeah. And so here's some more pictures of what I did. So what I was doing was manatee photo ID. So pretty much what that means is the manatees get they get hit by boats a lot because they live in the shallows, they live on coasts. So people hit them with their boats all the time. And when they do, the manatees get these permanent scars on their backs. They're white. I think there's a picture. Oh, you can kind of see the scars in this picture on the right. And they're just like little white spots, and every manatee has a unique set of them. So my job was to see the manatees. We would go out on the boat, we'd stand on like piers, and we'd look off and see the manatees and take pictures of them. And we'd write down on data sheets at the same time, like what we were seeing, the patterns we were seeing. And then we'd go back to the lab and do a bunch of office work. So on that top right picture, you can see me. I'm looking at a manatee drawing of all the scars. So you can see that little tiny manatee. It's like a top view of it. So they have a database of thousands of manatees that with drawings that look like that. So I had to take my pictures that I had taken in the field and match them to these drawings and try to identify the manatees. So that was my job over the summer. And I actually it was a very interesting job because they were very willing to let me try other things. So that top left picture is a baby sea turtle that we were releasing back into the ocean. There is at Moat's really cool because they have a lot of research going on. So one of the research programs is sea turtle research. So my co-intern and I had reached out to the people who run that program and asked them if we could shadow. So they let us come and shadow all the sea turtle research. So we learned a lot about sea turtle research. I also shadowed the people who like take care of the aquarium and take care of the sea turtles and the manatees and the otters in the aquarium and
Yeah,
train them. So that was cool too. Did I hear something?
the otters, they were very cute.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that was my time at Moat. I did some side jobs too, like we did this thing called boater, what do you call it? Boater compliance. And so that's what the left picture, the left bottom picture is me on the kayak doing boater compliance. So my co-intern and I would go out in the middle of the like a weekend and sit on this boat for 4 hours and see if people boating by were following the manatee regulations, the speed regulations, and see where they went. And that was our job. So we had data sheets and we were doing that. So that would take up some of my weekends when I lived there. Yeah, so I just did some office work and field work with manatee ID. So yeah, so after that, I went back to school, had a semester at school. Then I continued to apply because during my time looking for that Moat internship, I had learned about what are called REUs. And so I really wanted an RU. I'll talk about what that is in a second. But I really wanted one because they're paid and it's awesome. It's great. So I landed one in Virginia. So that was this past summer in 2023. And so what is an RU? So an RU, it stands for a research experience for undergrads. It's 10 weeks long. It's funded by the National Science Foundation. So everything is totally paid. They pay for your travel to and from the site. They pay for your you get like weekly seminars. So they pay for that. They pay for food at those seminars. They pay you to travel to and from work if you don't live on campus. It's just so great. They also pay, I think I got a $6,000 stipend for my whole summer with free housing and everything. So it's just awesome. You get paid a lot. It's great. It's also really good to put on your resume because you work under a professor or a mentor to come up with a research question and spend the time running an experiment. You conduct a study. And then finally, when you're done with these 10 weeks of figuring this out, then you present a project or a poster or a presentation. And I wrote a paper as well, but some people do, and it all depends on which site you go to. They're all different. But some of them require a paper, some of them require a poster, some of them require everything. So it just depends where you go. So back to my time in Virginia. So I ran a research project which I'll talk about more in a second. And during my research project, I had to learn to collaborate with so many different types of people because you think like when you go into a lab, like everything that you will need to complete your project in this lab is in the lab. But what the problem I ran into is that it wasn't. We needed to figure out how to look at fish in a microscope, and nobody in my lab knew how to do that. So, and nobody knew how to prepare the slides either. So I had to go to a whole different section of the research institute and find someone who knew how. So I went to a retired guy who had done it. It forced me to get out of my lab and network with people across the whole institute, which I think was really great. And I think a lot of research projects will end up being that way because they're all so interdisciplinary and, they require a lot of different knowledge. So anyway, that was one thing I really learned from VIMS, and also a lot of problem solving and patience, because you quickly learn that nothing goes right when you're doing research and that things are going to go wrong. Like, I cannot tell you how many times one time they left me alone to put virus into my tanks, which I'll talk about. And I dropped the container that I was like putting the virus. Oh my gosh, I called my mentor and I was like, oh my God, tragedy. She's like, no, it's fine. It's okay. I've dropped it too. It's okay. It was all fine. So anyway, so I just learned a lot of problem solving and patience and how to be more confident in myself through this internship. So what I did at VIMS, so my project involved rainbow trout and microplastics. So at first that did not sound appealing to me. But you know what? I'm interested in microplastics, so sure. So I show up and they're like, oh, we want you to feed fish microplastic, and then we want to see if they are susceptible to disease. And I was like, okay, cool. What are we feeding them? They're like, we don't actually have food. So I was like, oh. So I spent the first 5 weeks of my internship inventing a fish food with microplastics. So that first picture on the left is me with the final food, weighing it out into portions that we can then feed the fish later. So after we had invented the fish food, then we had to set up the actual experiment. So you can see in that second picture, me with, I think that's 90 of my 180 tanks that I had set up. So in each of those small tanks, there's one tiny fish. And so we ended like randomly numbered them, randomly labeled them. So none of them were like intentionally placed, intentionally sized, anything like that. And then we fed half of them the plastic food. So we had 3 different types of food. We had food that didn't have any plastic in it, obviously. We also had food that had nylon microfibers in it. And then we had food that had nylon microparticles in it. And the difference in that is just the shape. So the fibers are long and the particles are just like circles. So we fed them that food, and then once they've been fed the food, we had to give half of them a virus. So we picked this virus because it's called infectious hematopoietic necrosis virus, or IHNV. And it's a disease that's like kind of taking over the fisheries. It's because rainbow trout, they're primarily fished in the Pacific Northwest. So that IHNV is a disease that has been hitting that area. So we picked that disease. So we intentionally put that virus into half of the tanks, so that there were, I believe, 30 fish in each, no, 60 in each sample. So 60 fish got the virus and also 8 nylon microplastics or nylon microparticles. And then 60 fish got the nylon microfibers and virus. And then 60 fish had the fibers and no virus. So we were just like making sure everything was all even. So after that, we gave them the virus, and then we waited for them to react. So we expected some of them to die. We had one fish die out of the 180. We had only had one fish die. And so that was another challenge that we ran into, because how are we getting any data if none of them are dying? So what we ended up doing was measuring what's called viral shedding. So it's kind of like being contagious. So like the fish will take in the virus, and then once they're sick with it, they release it back in the water. So we took water samples to see if the virus is in the water or not. And that is how we measured if they were infected or not. So anyway, once we had gotten all those results, then we had to figure out why we saw what we saw. And we saw really no significant changes in anything. It was kind of a failed experiment a little, but most of them are in RUs because they're all 10 weeks. They're super short. Like so many of my other RU, because there was a cohort of us, of 12 of us, and so many of them had experiments that didn't come out to anything, but that's okay. That's part of it. It's really just about teaching the students how to run an experiment, all the troubles that can come with that. And yeah, so that was my time at VIMS. Great. Here's some other pictures. So the left one is me preparing the virus to put into the tanks. The one on the top middle is me with a scientist who is not in my lab teaching me how to look at fish under the microscope. So we're looking at, in that picture, we're looking at the microplastics that we had fed them. And then the bottom middle is what the inside of a fish stomach looks like, if you were curious. And the little like fiber looking, that's the plastic with the little tiny brown dots. That's our plastic that we fed them. So we know that they ate it, which is good. And then on the bottom right is me presenting my mid-semester presentation to everybody. So I had a final one as well. I didn't put the picture there for some reason, but yeah, so that was my time at VIMS. It was super valuable, and I'll talk more about RUs in a minute. But after VIMS, I went back to school. But before I actually even started, I got this email from, it was my day I moved to Virginia. I got an email and it was like, "Hi, we got your email because you were at a marine biology club meeting and you filled out this survey. Would you be interested in going to Bonaire?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they asked me to do research there. So I went to Bonaire, which if you don't know what Bonaire is, that's so fine. I didn't know what it was. But it's a tiny little island off the coast of Venezuela. And it's known for its diving scene. It's a popular cruise ship destination for divers specifically. It's surrounded by reef and they're all marine protected areas. So it's a super protected, very beautiful scuba diving spot. So Reef Expeditions is the nonprofit that reached out to me. Reef Expeditions is based in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is it's probably an hour from me. So that's how they came to our club, and that's why they found my name. And so they invited me to come to this trip, so I went, and we did 15 scuba diving excursions. Half of those were doing research, and what we were doing was we were tracking the spread of coral disease, and we were also looking at fish biodiversity. So there were, I think, 10 of us on the research team. So we all took different roles. There were 4 of us who did fish. I was on that team. I did the fish the whole time. 2 people took the coral. And then another 2 did benthic organisms. So they looked at like the microbial mats and the algae and like what was living on the ocean floor. But I did fish. So I just swam back and forth and looked at fish the whole time. And then there were 2 people on the team who were just managing everyone, making sure everybody was doing all right. No one ran into a lionfish, anything like that. So that experience was really cool. So you can see in the left, there's a little sea turtle. That was a very exciting time for me. The bottom is the research team that I went with. You can see that it is mainly older men. They are the ones that are on like the I guess they have like executive positions on this, in this nonprofit. And then the 4 girls in the bottom, one of them is me. But all of us were college students. And we all found out about Reef Expeditions, 3 of us through me, including myself there. But 2 of them go to school with me. And then the other girl, she goes to Ohio State and got scuba certified with the CEO of this nonprofit. And that's how she found out about it. But the top middle image is me doing fish research. So you can see that I am holding this like PVC pipe T-shaped thing. And so I would hold that. On the bottom is a clipboard, and like pencils and paper work underwater. You just have to have like waterproof paper. And so I'm writing down, I'm swimming with this pole. If you see how it's like black and white at the end, that's there, those are 10 centimeter increments, and they're there to help me size the fish that I'm looking at. So as I'm swimming, I can see how big the fish is in approximation to my pole, and then try and estimate how big that fish was. So on my data sheet, I'm writing the species of the fish, how big it is, and how many I'm seeing. So as I'm swimming, I'm doing this all and swimming all together. And then behind me is my dive buddy, John. And he was just making sure I didn't drown or anything on my journey. And we did alternate, and he would like take a shift and then I'd take a shift and like that. So, and then the picture on the right is a spotted trunk fish on a reef. Random picture from scuba diving that I thought I'd add it.
So cute.
Yeah. Okay, and then last up, I went to Costa Rica recently with Paul. So I thought I'd throw that in. So I needed to study abroad to graduate. And I have not studied abroad. And I also needed 6 credit hours of study abroad credit to do it. And I could only find one program in the whole world that had 6 credit hours over J term and was focused on marine biology, and it was this one. And so I'm sure, I mean, I know, Paul, you had a meeting about it, but I did the same things as Paul, like literally the same things. But you know, we did mangrove research, we did shark fin research. You could see me with my shark fin. We did reef, we looked at coral reefs, we did intertidal zones. So we learned a lot about all kinds of ecosystems in Costa Rica, and also the local culture and everything like that. So yeah, I just found out about that on my own. I know you guys have CUNY helping you out with this program, but I mean, I don't really know how CUNY works, but at my university, like there are plenty of options to do study abroad. But my problem that I ran into was none of them focused on marine biology, so I had to go on my own. So the way I found this program was I Googled marine biology study abroad and tried to figure out like what I could find. And so I had to go independent of my university. So as a result, I was the only person on the whole trip who was from Ohio, or not from CUNY. So I don't know. So my recommendation here, I guess, is just to, if you can't find the right program, like it's probably out there for you somewhere, and look outside of school. That's what I did, and it worked out. So yeah, so that is Costa Rica. So I wanted to talk about, I'm gonna expose myself, but picture me crying. So it sounds like I've done a lot, and I have, and I'm very lucky to do it all, but I want to emphasize that it is not come easy at all. I have been rejected so many times. In 2022, I applied to 11 internships and got rejected by 9. And the only 2 I got were unpaid. One of them was the one that I did, the manatee research, and the other one was at Clearwater Aquarium doing dolphin hunt from that time. And then after I had done the manatee work and I had bumped up my resume a lot, I was like, oh, I'm totally gonna get an internship this summer. I got rejected by 10. And then I was accepted by 3. One of them was a paid internship, and I actually had accepted it. And then I got and it was in Nantucket, Massachusetts. And then I got the acceptance for a Virginia position, and I rescinded my acceptance, which I don't recommend doing. However, I'm really glad that I did it, because I don't think I would have gotten such a valuable experience out of the Nantucket position as I did out of the Virginia. So at the end, I had left the Nantucket. accepted Virginia, and then I was offered a position at Zoo Miami in Florida. And it was between Virginia and Miami for me, and I had heard way better things about Virginia, so I took that one at Virginia. But I was rejected by 10 before I was accepted. And then I also want to talk about my time as an intern. Because even though you get accepted to a position, that doesn't always mean it's going to go amazingly. So I'll talk first about my time in Moat. So when I was at Moat, as you all know, I did manatee research, and I was always out in the field. And so I work also at my university as a photographer for the university itself. So the people who like are in charge of making our brochures and our social media posts and everything like that, they know who I am. And so before I left to move to Florida, they said to me, Katie, we want to come down and do a story on you. And like you said, for advertising in the university. I'm like, okay, whatever, sure. So in July, they flew down to come do a story on me in Florida. And so I prepared, I told them what I was doing. The first day was field work. The second day was going to be me in the office. Great. I'll go back to the pictures so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But a lot of these pictures they took. That one of me with the data sheet in the top right, they took that. Top right here, they took that one too. So anyway, so they came and took pictures of me. And on the first day, we were out in the field, and we were at this place called Palmasola. It's pretty much it's like a neighborhood, but there's a big like I don't know, pond in the middle, but it's connected to the ocean and also connected to a freshwater stream coming in. So manatees love it because manatees love to drink fresh water. So they came in all the time. You could go to Palmasola and pretty much be guaranteed to see a manatee. And so we would go and survey the manatees there. And so we were there, me and my other intern were there, and the people from my school were there taking pictures of me. Perfect. And that's not what doing an internship is about. It's like, it's great if you do a good job. But it's about teaching you things. And so that is something that I learned the hard way, but it might teach you guys something, maybe not the hard way. Hopefully you don't have to learn it the way I learned it. But yeah, so I just think that's important to mention that it's not always easy. And then, so to close my presentation, I just wanted to give some advice from the things that I have accumulated over my experiences. So the first one is to ask a ton of questions. So this is also something I learned from Moat because I came in like very questioning of myself, very not confident. And so I did not ask enough questions. So this quickly made me fall behind. Like within probably the first couple weeks, I was falling behind my other intern. And I really regretted it. And it followed me around the whole internship. So when I went to VIMS the following summer, I was like, you know what, I can't do that again. So I asked a million questions. I asked stupid questions, but I don't regret it at all. I think asking stupid questions is better than being confused. Because it shows that you genuinely care. Not only that, but it also makes sure you actually know what you're doing, which is very important. So yeah, so that's my first piece of advice. Ask a ton of questions and don't be afraid to do so. Second of all, look for resources at your school. For me, I'm a first generation college student. So my parents, they don't know how to write a resume. They don't know how to apply for jobs. They don't know how to they don't know anything. So I walked in my career center at my school and I said, I do not have a resume and I need one. And they were like, okay, come here, let me help. And I kept going back to my career center to help me write a statement of purpose, to like a cover letter, write my resume. I did mock interviews. I got my headshot. And so I recommend going to resources for that kind of thing. And also that's where I got my money to allow me to afford to move to Florida for summer for an unpaid position. And then the other thing is to apply to a lot. Like I said, I got rejected from a ton, from total of 19 positions that I've been rejected from. And I've been accepted to 5. So I highly recommend applying to a lot of them, even if they aren't perfect. I did not think I would like VIMS, but I applied because I knew they were a respected institution. I knew it would be better to do that than do nothing. And when I ended up getting it, I was like, okay, not my top choice, but all right. And it ended up being amazing. So yeah, apply to a lot, stay open-minded about it, and also stay organized. Because with up to however many applications you have going at once, that can get really confusing with deadlines and stuff like that. So I use a spreadsheet to do that. And then next, be willing to step outside your comfort zone. So for me, that was getting scuba certified. That was possibly the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, getting scuba certified. But if I hadn't gotten scuba certified, I wouldn't have been able to go to Bonaire. And so it's things like that, like just stepping outside of your comfort zone, like applying to jobs you don't think you'll get, applying to jobs you don't think you'll really like stuff like that. Like I just said, applied to VIMS, even though I didn't really love it. And just keeping an open mind is perfect. It's exactly what you need to be doing. And then also another thing is networking. Networking has been so valuable to me during my career path. And I've done it through, like, of course, I've gotten to know a lot of people through all my experiences, but also Miami professors at my school. I go to their office hours. I ask them for resume advice. I ask them for internship advice. I ask them for everything. And so they know me personally. And so as a result, they can write strong recommendation letters for me. And they send me job offers and, well, not job offers, but job opportunities. And so it's just been really cool to do that. So I recommend getting to know your professors really well. That picture of me on the left is with James Porter. I don't know if you guys know who he is. I didn't know until he came to my school, but he literally coined the term coral bleaching. Like, this man is a world-class scientist. And he was at my school because we had this annual science lecture event, and they had selected him as the lecturer. And the reason why I met him is because I had done so much networking with my professors that all of my professors emailed me this. They were like, there's this guy, he's coming. Like, I got this same email like at least 5 times from all these different people, like, hey, have you heard this coral guy is coming? I'm like, I got it. I got it. So because I knew all the professors, I got invited to go to a private breakfast with him. He gave me so much advice about grad school. He listened to my research from VIMS. So now I know him personally. He has my CV. He has my resume. He knows that I'm looking for a position. So that's a great contact for me. So that all happened because I know my professors. So networking with your professors is the first step to all of this. But another great way to network is through your marine biology club. So like I said earlier, we've had some pretty cool speakers come. And one of them, her name is Julie Henry, and she's an author. And the reason why I found out about her was because she was an intern at Moat, quite a few years before I was. But she's also an alumni of my university. So I connected with her on LinkedIn, and I said, hi, I was, I think, the secretary at the time of the Marine Biology Club, and we need a speaker. Would you be interested? And now I email her for career advice, because she has all this background in aquariums and marine science. So it's stuff like that. So totally network. That's one of the best things you can do, especially in marine science, because the field is so competitive. And then I have some more advice. So start preparing your resume, CV, statement of purpose early. It really does not hurt to have it ready just in case you find something come up. Look for scholarships before you go spending everything out of pocket. A lot of these internships are unpaid. So if you could find anything that's paid, that'd be great. But if you can't, there are lots of scholarships out there. The ones that I've gotten have been mostly through my university. So I recommend looking there first, but there are so many sources online for if you're looking for scholarships. And then these next two kind of go together. But so like I said, National Science Foundation, who funds the REU programs, they are one of the biggest things they're pushing for these programs is to introduce diversity to marine biology. So a lot of the applications ask you questions like tell me about the meaning of diversity to you. How do you feel about working in a diverse environment? So my advice is to learn how to appreciate and talk about diversity if you haven't. And if you are from a diverse background, if you're first generation, if you're a minority, bring it up. Bring it up because they love that. They will eat that up. That's my biggest piece of advice. I was really pushing that I'm first gen. And also another thing I was able to push is that in my cornfield school in Ohio, we don't have oceans. So I was able to be like, yeah, I don't have this opportunity because I don't live on a coast. And they ate that up too. So just really like play into what you can when you're applying to all these positions, if you want to. Okay, and then I've also provided a list of some resources that you can go to. Paul, you have the slideshow. I'm assuming you can just send it to everybody. So this is just some links to RUs. So these are all, I think by now all of the applications are likely closed. There's one in, I can't remember what aquarium it is right now, but I think it's in Massachusetts. And that application normally closes March 15th. So that one might still be open. But most of these RU positions, the applications close in February or sometimes even January. So they might be passed, but if you are still going to be an undergraduate next summer, so you can't have graduated already. You have to be at the latest between your junior and senior year. And so if you're still going to be an undergraduate, you will still be eligible and you can apply then. But it does not hurt to start looking into it now and figure out, what you're into and or not. And yeah. And then the other one is a marine science internship list. So the way I found my internships was literally just Googling like marine biology internships. And that's how I found like 90% of the things I applied to. So you can always do that, or you can go to an internship list like the one I just provided. And then if you want to study abroad in marine biology, I used so many different websites to try and figure it out, but Go Overseas is a good one. And this link already narrows it down to marine biology for you. So if you're interested in studying abroad on a marine biology topic, like there's some good programs that will help you do that. And I think that's everything I have. But I put my email on there, so if you have any questions for me, you can contact me. But yeah, so does anyone have any questions or anything?
I'm good.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay, lovely. Yeah, hopefully that is helpful. That's some way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Here, I'll stop sharing. All right, thank you guys. All right, well, if you don't need me anymore, I'll head out. Am I good?
You want any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, honestly.
No? Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good day.
Bye.